I see about 150 feet.
Oh, okay, so I see Sally has joined us. So I'd like to, we have a quorum. I'd like to call the March meeting of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee to order. And let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we start the roll call, Joseph Camacho has resigned. So he's no longer on the committee. Lewis, you probably have some details on that.
Yeah, I mean, following the last meeting, you asked me to follow up with Mr. Camacho to see who's still going to be a participant. That email correspondence resulted getting a message back that he could no longer participate as a member of the CBOC.
Okay. All right, Tom, you want to call the roll?
Thank you, John. Maisha Cole,
Present.
Sally DeWitt,
I'm here.
Lorraine Humes.
It's on her way.
Yeah, I understand. Jason Lindsay. Tom Panis, I am here, and John Anderson.
Okay. Next item is the agenda. Are there any comments on the agenda?
Yes. Anton Young here.
Okay, Anton.
The agenda package that was posted on Friday was apparently revised. I didn't get, I am apparently not on the public is apparently not on the agenda distribution list. So I'm curious why the packet on Friday and the packet today is different. On today's packet, it says there's no financial reports. On the Friday packet, there was the accounts payable report. So I'm not sure why the packet was revised and is not available to the public. Send in my comment.
I would like,
Go ahead.
I'd like to pull the November and the February minutes. I think there's a couple of technical issues there we have with those minutes, but otherwise that's my only requested change to the agenda.
Okay. All right, I really, the agenda that I downloaded and that were sent to the members on Friday afternoon, oh. And that was, yeah, the financial reports are delayed, so. All right, with that, we have those two items. And I guess, well, I'll ask the question. The agenda that was posted on Friday was has all the information I put in, but then the financial information. Okay. The only items on there are things, okay, the items relative to the, all right. Okay, with that, we're pulling the February minutes from the consent agenda
And November.
in November. Okay. All right, let's get into the staff reports. Ellen?
Sorry, muted. Always a good thing to come off of. Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. It's always good to see the CBOC. And here we are with our project status update. So we have both Richmond and Kennedy site-specific master plans going on. In the past week, we met with the steering committees for our second round of community meetings. So we're trying to establish some options for how the final layout for the master plan could be imagined. The next week, we're going to go do more focus groups to make sure we get all the kinks out, and then we're going to have some community meetings and other opportunities for people to voice their opinion on which option they like best. And then eventually take that to the board. So that's kind of where those projects are. Cameron and Collins are both in DSA. We've returned the back checked comments to DSA, so we're hoping that they're coming out any day now. Hercules Middle High School, Science Labs, we just received the 50% CD documents. So CD is construction documents. So that means we are nearing the finish line in design, and soon we'll be submitting to DSA in the next couple months. So this is our last big review before the permit set goes into DSA. So we are working on looking through those. Shannon is in construction documents. Riverside site improvements have gone into DSA. So we are working on, we're preparing to bid out as soon as that comes out of DSA. And Korematsu's actually is now out of DSA. Lake campus replacement, increment 1 is fully through DSA and we'll be starting construction in June. We're talking to the principal to set up a community meeting to make sure that everybody's aware of the upcoming construction. We've also received the 50% construction documents for Lake and are going through those as well. So that's for increment 2, which is the main part of the project. Increment 1 is to really get the site work moving so that we could move that a little faster ahead and hit the good weather for that work while we're still getting the rest of the design worked out, which is a better possibility when you're in a design build project. It's harder to do that when we do a design bid build. Riverside soil stabilization is really in closeout now. We have 2 punch list items left, but we are really wrapping that project up. And what's in construction, we have Pinole Valley with the field and bleachers, which you'll see the pictures in a moment, which tells a better story. And then E-Rate is exciting because it's starting construction. So they've been out at Deanza, checking out the existing pathways for data lines, and we will soon be getting those going, although we're working through some kinks with the supply chain is hitting us on various different supplies. So we've kind of revamped how we're going to approach the project and do the cabling work first and then put in the devices second. The majority of this work is either replacing the wireless access points or WAPs that are the lovely doohickeys in the ceiling that allow us to have Wi-Fi, which we've all learned is super essential in our world. So for most of the campuses, we're only doing exterior Wi-Fi improvements. And for some of them, like De Anza, we are doing a full-fledged rework of the existing Wi-Fi system because it's outdated and needs new data lines so that we can make sure that the bandwidth that's coming into our buildings are able to be distributed out. So those are the projects. Any questions here before we move on to the pictures? Oh, Don's got his hand up. But you're on mute.
Hate when that happens. Hey, Merry Christmas. I said, your first item on the planning sessions for Kennedy and Richmond High School. I was just going to remind you that how important it is to get the notifications out and invitations out to the public about those, any public meetings on there. The last time around, it seems like more of the notification came from Helen Burke at Kennedy High School than it did from the district, at least on the sites that the public routinely goes to. And I just offer once again, I've got access to a lot of different sites. So you send it to me, I can distribute it to people as well. It just every little bit helps because you want to have full participation from the public instead of just 10 or 12 people from the public and the students. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Riverside Elementary School. As I said before, we're really in this project transition. If you want to go to the next slide. We're really in this transition phase from our first collection of scope to our second collection of scope. So where we started was shown in orange with the soil stabilization. And a component of that also affected the original outdoor dining area, which is shown in purple. And you can tell that that was really a tiny area. And we have all learned the importance of our outdoor spaces and being able to accommodate classes and things to be able to do outdoor, especially dining. And so one of the requests that as we were moving things around and having to redo different patio spaces anyways for ADA compliance, we shifted the outdoor learning area to what used to be the kindergarten play yard, which is shown in blue. And so we also installed the new trash enclosure, which is shown in red. But when we put the lunch tables in the blue square, we displaced kinder playground. And so looking at the other playground projects or the other playground area, which is in yellow, those play structures were past their useful life. They had broken components to them. The padding underneath the play structure had also gotten to the end of its life. And so we are rearranging some of the blacktop areas. And if we want to go down to the next slide, they'll show you what it'll look like. So we're establishing a kinder area, which is the smaller block in the middle, is going to be the new playground. Oh, that's the garden. There we go. So that's going to be the new kinder playground, and it'll have a new play structure and striping. And then we will replace the older kids play structure with more appropriate size one that's more in line with what we have at our other campuses. We're also creating a garden area and doing a restripe of the upper kids blacktop surfaces, moving some of the components that didn't work well because there was cross interference between basketball and volleyball. So all of these pieces are coming into play. We also have the darker gray square is a shade structure. So a few different components coming out to be able to finish up Riverside's secondary project, which is this the reestablishment of the playgrounds. So that's what we're moving into. At Pinole, we have our construction photos. And this was a bit old, so this was from the beginning of the month, but last February. But I thought it was a really fun picture because it showed really what happens underneath our building pads. So this was provided by Earl, and it's just really interesting to see how the underground utilities, and then you also see the banks of structural components that we have underneath our building pads. So that's what that is for the field house. And the next photo shows that another aerial, as you can see, the fabric, which is the black square that's coming up. There we go. That's the underlayment for the softball baseball field. So we've come up to subgrade. Now we're laying the fabric down to be able to really start getting the turf system installed. The turf has been removed from the football field, which you can see now is brown in between all of the track surfacing. So that's been removed. We've done permeability testing and another few things to start getting ready to get the football field going. The yellow square on this particular picture, a little further to the left, is the building pad. At this particular moment in time, it's covered in plastic, which is the vapor barrier between the subgrade rock and our concrete. And then we have the bleacher area that's also being worked. The footings holes are getting dug. So that's that where we are here. Moving down, we get a close-up. So like I said, those were older photos, but they were good views of what's happening. The wall framing is going up now at the field house. So this was just last week. So you can see that we're starting to go vertical, which is always exciting. Finally out of the dirt, and going down to the next one. These are the footing, or they will be the footings for the bleachers and the home side. So those are going, the holes are dug. They poured the concrete today. Next one. This is the prep for the baseball pitcher mound. So where they're digging that out, they have special subgrade work that they have to do under the pitching mound. So that's what's happening there. So you can, if you think about it, you're in the batter's box. Next. Oh, and that's the end of those reports. And it looks like we've got another question from Dawn. And you're on mute again. Struck out.
Yes. As a professional photographer, I'm very, very envious of the great pictures that Earl Combs takes from Pinole Valley High School. But when you start doing your work at Kennedy High School and Richmond High School, you are really going to miss Earl, because drones are illegal in Richmond. Yeah, quite literally, anything that it is bigger than the palm of your hand is illegal in Richmond. And so you have to just throw your camera up in the air and with a timer on there and hope it takes a picture that you can see. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? All right, and we have our construction newsletter, and that's about it. But yes, I will miss Earl's pictures because they are really fun to see the documentation.
He's kind enough to share them with the public too.
Yes, he is. It's a great service.
Well, and this is typically the turning point where I would share with you the suite of monthly financial reports. For those of you that have been following kind of the broader district news, you probably know there's a really big board meeting this week, and our fiscal team has been working really on second interim. So we do not have the monthly suite of financial reports available for today's meeting, but as soon as they're ready, we will email them out, distribute them, and also post them to the website.
Okay, thank you. Before we get on to the next item, I noted that Jason did join the meeting at 6:20. Hi, Jason. I don't see Lorraine yet. She must have been stuck in traffic. Anyway, so Tom, you had some questions on some of the the invoices that were on the January report that we went over last month.
Thank you very much, John. You know, from time to time in the past, the CBOC has just sort of tried to pick out some random invoices to look at, or something. They're not necessarily random. They're ones that look interesting to both understand, you know, in better detail the kind of stuff we do. And we can, you know, looking at this one, we can see there's a lot of accounting involved, but also just better understand our work and try and be watching carefully to make sure that bond monies are being spent appropriately. And staff, I think, did a really good job in putting together some backup on these invoices. Couple questions I have, and I don't know if other people have questions about these. So when we're talking about district facilities management augmentation, so we're basically talking about people doing kind of a staff. Please tell me if I'm correct, Louis or Melissa or whoever wants to tell me. Individuals who aren't really employees of the district doing work to support the facilities master plan.
They're doing work to support the program, yes.
Yeah, okay, fine, thank you.
And if you'll notice that, you know, like on this particular invoice, some of it is actually split funded. So they're not only doing work related to the bond, but they're doing work related to other facilities projects. So you'll see the funding splits whether their time's charged there or not. They have the ability to be able to charge their time depending on what projects they're working on at the time.
And I noticed like there's four different funds here, so that's 4 different sources of money coming through for this. Then also, it was just useful to have like, I mean, that is it standard on something like this to have the timesheets? I mean, that's great backup for the charges. Is it standard? Is that part of our?
Absolutely. So that's required. So staff, district staff, we do our timesheets, and any consultant that's working with the district where their contract is for more than one project, they provide invoices. And so part of their invoice, there's a summary, but they have to provide the backup not only by funding source, but they're providing it by project. And so you can see exactly which project they were working on and their hours. And so that is required. One of the nuances that you don't necessarily see here, but the way that we code the services that are performed is not only by funding source. So as you see on the payment approval form, this would be the bond Fund 21 account code here. So you would see this is the Fund 21, and here's the project string. And one of the things that tells you is the coding goes even deeper. So if a consultant that's working with us is doing design management services, that's coded differently than construction management services is coded differently than like project management services, which is a little bit more broad.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. I don't have any other questions about this one. I notice Mr. Youngher's hand is up. I don't know, John, if you want to recognize him or if I should ask the questions about the second invoice right now. Or I don't know if any other CBOC members have
Oh,
had
I
a chance to
see.
look at these and yet.
I don't see any other CBOC members, but I see Mr. Younger and Mr. Gosney. So Mr. Younger, Anton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm particularly interested in the second invoice, which is basically the backup is a journal entry. This pertains to Kennedy High School bleacher and press box project. And what is interesting about this journal entry is the $43,260 was originally charged to the general fund back in September, October of 2021. So now 3 months later, we make a journal entry on January 29th, 2022 to charge the bond fund. So I'm curious, and the journal entry has no explanation why we're doing this. So basically, the expenditures were made from the general fund 3 months ago and now are being charged to the bond fund. Doesn't make sense to me. No explanation provided. End of my report.
Mr. Gosney,
Thank you. That very first, I guess, invoice that we saw, one thing that concerned me is when I looked at the very bottom and I saw the 3 signatures on there. I see, you know, the initiation, the fiscal approver, and the facilities approver. But I can make out, maybe if I really put my heart at it, I could guess what the name of that top signature would be. But as far as the other 2, I could not. Shouldn't the person's name be spelled out on there? I mean, we're not talking about being able to identify things tonight, but let's say when the audit comes in from the grand jury or the feds or anything like that, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, and all the people that might actually know who these people are no longer with us anymore. How does anybody identify those scribbles that are on there? It just seems like it'd be prudent to spell out the person's name, just like you have on a contract. It'll have a person's name, and then their signatures be right above it. Thank you.
I think those were both excellent questions. Maybe I'll go in order of answering. So the first question I think was in regards to the journal entry that was made from MRAD, which is a resource of the general fund. So the Kennedy Field project, as it was originally conceived, was going to be funded from MRAD, which is a restricted general fund resource that is used essentially for our fields. That's one of the main uses. And so it was Kennedy's Field's turn. And so we started and we were doing a bleachers and press box project there under MRAD. As the approval of the preliminary sites for the facility master planning, and then as the facility master planning for Kennedy High School really got going, one of the things that we knew was that the field for Kennedy High School was going to remain in the same place, and that was going to be part of Measure R. So we went to the board here, and I included this. This is from the, you can print out an agenda item from the board. And so you can see here that there was a board meeting on January 19th, where we asked that they allocate the Measure R 2020 Kennedy High School press box, bleachers, and field project as our first Measure R project. And so this was awarded by the board. And so what we did was took what was originally a much smaller project that was going to be funded by MRAD, looked at the needs of Kennedy, knew that Kennedy was going to stay in the same space. And then the project itself, the budget was allocated for Measure R. And so what you see in the journal here is you can see this here is the journal. So up here in the additional description, it notes the date of the board meeting when the budget was approved, and then it indicates that it's moving the expenditure from MRAD to bond, and it's identifying the contract. So that's the HMC architectural contract. So the architect has remained the same. And then you can see here in the second page, sorry, that's probably pretty small on your screen. Let me make this a little bit bigger. This is backup documentation from our financial system Munis that identifies the actual expenditures here. So you can see that backup information. And then this further shows the journal entry proof that was made. And I believe that's the backup that we provided. So this is the backup documentation, and this is the board item when we moved the Kennedy High School field bleachers and press box project from a smaller MRAD project to Measure R bond. And then kind of jumping to the other question as it related to the signatures. So this form here, it's called our payment approval form. It's a form that we created here in the bond program that would really do a series of things that are kind of identified in our bond program management plan. And so in the program management plan, it talks about who can be the fiscal approver and who can be the facilities approver. So you'll always see Lewis's signature at this time as our facilities approver, and this is Sinja Cha, she's our fiscal approver. The initiator can be someone from the fiscal staff, and then pursuant to our audit recommendations, the invoice itself signed directly on the invoice is the project manager that's assigned to that contract. So you can see the invoice itself gets approved by the project manager. And then there is the series of signatures that belong here on our payment approval form. In addition to that, this is just the hard copy approvals. In our financial system, there's an electronic workflow system approval as well. And so that's set up with a series of requirements depending on funding source, objects, cost codes, et cetera. Different things go to different approvers. And so not only do contracts have to go through an electronic workflow approval process in our financial system, but so do invoices. So we have what I believe is just a stronger control of duplicate approvals in paper copy and in our Munis financial system electronically. Make sure we don't miss anything. Are there any additional questions?
Tom, did you have another question?
Actually, I had not seen something that Mr. Youngher saw, which was when the original item was. And I was just going to point out that in the agenda under G, sub-item B, the date says January 2002 rather than January 2022. I don't know if it's worth it to go back and change that, but no, I'd like to thank the staff very much for replying comprehensively to that. Those questions.
Melissa, is it possible to just type the person's name under their signature on your form? Just
We could. One of the things that's happened in the past is it's actually, this topic has kind of gone round and round. So there was a point when the signature lines just had the name of a person. But I think one of the things that we've learned, not only just through life, but probably more importantly recently through COVID, right? And these kind of last 2 years we've been through, is that specific person may not be there that day, right? So for example, when we did our bond program management plan, we talked a lot about, are we going to put the name of the person that's doing it? Or are we going to put the name of the role that's doing it? And so part of what we decided was that it was more important to ensure that that role of approver was indicated versus that specific person. And so that's why we ended up taking this route. And you'll also notice that we did kind of similarly in the bond program management plan when we talked about our bond controls team, because really the intent of our controls is to make sure that there is multiple perspectives that are approving it, that it's not just being approved from a fiscal standpoint and it's not just being approved from a facilities standpoint, but it also has that project manager's approval. So that's actually why we did it that way. Our forms should be consistent, the roles should be consistent, our internal controls should be consistent, so that if the person changes, that role of approval stays the same. And that separation really of duties also stays the same. So we've actually kind of done that purposefully in this example.
so if there's a question about the signature, they could go back in the PMP and find out who was doing that role on that date, and they would have the name. Okay.
And the way that it works in our financial system, right? We all have a different logon. So say, for example, somebody was to go on vacation. It's a hypothetical, of course, but let's just say somebody went on vacation. So if we did, in your electronic Munis workflow approval, you can forward your approval, but you can only forward it to certain people. And so there are just layers and layers of internal controls that show in the financial system through the electronic approval exactly who approved it and if that person didn't approve it, who they forwarded it to, and that person that approved it. So when we do go through audits, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because it is very much audit season right now, we provide all of this information to the auditors so that they can document those separate approvals.
Mhm. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, anything more on this topic? Okay, thank you. Also, just heard Lorraine joined the meeting at 6:30. All right, the consent items, we've removed, Tom has asked to remove the February 14th draft meeting minutes and November 15th, 2021 draft meeting minutes. So for the other remaining items, those items are approved by unanimous consent.
Could
Tom.
I ask a question, John?
Yes, ma'am.
For E and F, it just says minutes. It doesn't say draft
Oh.
minutes.
They were posted, they actually are posted final. Those were on the list. Just to kind of clear up, we could not find in the record that those had, there had been a formal, like I just did, that the items are approved by unanimous consent.
Okay, thank you.
So Tom, the two items that you pulled.
Thank you, John. On the November 15th meeting minutes, we actually didn't get them changed to note that the consent items were not approved, because we know that there was no motion to approve them, and no, after there was discussion about them, there was no motion to approve them, and there was no vote taken. So I suggest we just need to get the
Okay,
November
another
15th. Yeah.
cleanup of the
Yeah.
cleanup, no approval
Yeah.
of consent.
And
Okay.
on February 15th, I'm happy to take blame for this. You know, I sent a note to you and copied Sylvia and Lewis saying, I thought the February 15th meeting minutes looked good. And I had just assumed, and I'm sorry I didn't make this clear, that the resolution 2201 that we actually passed regarding the CBOC legislative plan would be either copied in or attached to the minutes. And that did not happen. And I think,
Are you sure?
I don't, if someone could show it to me, I'm fine to eat my words on that one. I didn't see that actually got attached or pasted in.
There, it's at the very end.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. I am so sorry about that.
Oh, my God. Merry Christmas.
My mistake. I'll admit it right now. And I want to apologize for taking the committee's item on that one. So,
Page 40 and 41 of the packet.
okay. Thank you.
But thank you for double checking. Good, we got it in there.
Okay. So I guess I'll go back through and take care of 15, and then we'll just repost the February minutes. On the next agenda for the consent.
Okay. Thank you. And I apologize again for that.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we'll just let Tom keep the floor and continue now with the discussion of the audit schedules.
Okay, so we provided an audit schedule to Lewis, actually back, it was before the February meeting, but it wasn't with sufficient advance notice to get it posted. I don't know if we can get it displayed here on the screen, that would be great. But there's just like, there's a lot of holes in the audit schedule, and the 2021 audits in theory are supposed to be completed by the end of this month, then, that would include the bond audits, which we normally see before they go to the board. We often see most of the audits before they go to the board. It looks like we're not going to see any of them before they go to the board. Or there's, I would say, like, even more importantly, there's not going to be an exit conference with the auditors on the bond audits to see if they had any particular issues they wanted to bring to the CBOC's or the board's attention. But I would love us if we could get this schedule up to date. There's a lot of question marks in here. And I don't know if staff is able to respond verbally, to what those dates are and if there's going to be exit conferences, or if we're going to be invited. If there is one, but we're not invited to, just like what's cooking with the various audit situations. Thank you.
So I know Melissa's been working with our internal auditor and the auditors, so we can update this spreadsheet. So I think she can give us an update.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask permission from the committee. So we had agendized talking about the audits, but I did not complete the presentation in time for posting on Friday, but I have prepared a presentation that goes through our required audits and our supplemental audits and gives a lot of information about our audits and how they are aligned to our program management plan. So with permission of the committee, I'd be happy to share that with you now. But if that's not okay because I didn't get the presentation posted, I'd like to bring it to the next meeting and I could just give the verbal update.
I'd actually love it if you could do it now. Technically the Brown Act only requires the agenda and not the attachments to be posted. So if no one else has any objections, I think it'd be fantastic if you could do that.
Yeah, I think time is of the essence in this, so let's go ahead.
Well, thank you everybody for understanding. It really was my intention to get it done Friday. Are you guys able to see it?
Yep.
Did the screen change? Okay. So this is kind of a culmination of things that we've really been talking about at CBOC that I thought were really important to share. And so as we walk through this, I wanted to start with kind of an overview of the bond program audits. And so we have essentially 3 required audits that we'll talk about tonight. 2 of them are annual. That's our annual bond financial audit and our annual bond performance audit. I think those are the ones that are of greatest time of essence, and I'll give a little update. But we also have, thanks to the Ed Code, a new project-specific school facility program audit that we do for applications. So one of the things that we've shared with the committee is we're always going after additional state funds to really leverage and extend our local bond dollars, and we've been incredibly successful with that. It's about 135 million in the last 10 years. And we have a 15-day letter right now for Helms, which would be another 4 million, potentially higher. And so we're really aggressive pursuing state funds, but with that comes a lot of auditing. And then we have the supplemental bond program audits that we've had, I think, kind of going back to 2016 to present, from which there are just a number of recommendations, and I think really out of which we ended up with our program management plan. So at the end, I'd like to share with you a little bit about where we are with those audits and how those really tie to our program management plan. Want to remind you that the current and historical audit reports are available online. A little bit later, we're going to do a website tour, which I'm super excited about, and we'll get to those as well, but wanted to make sure you had that information here as well.
Goodbye.
So for our required bond program audits, we have our financial audit. And so this year, our bond financial audit is being performed by Christy White. And so for fiscal year 2021, we did not have the expenditure of Measure R. So it will be looking at expenditures from 2010 Measure D and 2012 Measure E. We're behind schedule, right? Usually we complete all of our field work in January and February. We see a draft report, and in March, we're steadily walking through CBOC and board to bring that forward by March 31st. It's just not where we are this year. I think COVID has hit staffing hard, not only internally at the district, but just kind of a wash among the community. And so we don't have draft reports yet. We've provided all of the documents that have been requested, and we're waiting for follow-up questions. And so as soon as the draft report is available, pursuant to our board policy and really just the partnership that we have, we're going to deliver that draft report to the CBOC. So the legal deadline is that report is to be provided to the CBOC by March 31st. Typically what we do is we share the draft with the CBOC. We get excellent comments from the CBOC, work with the auditors to get written responses. Potentially there are changes that are made, and then we take that forward to the board for their acceptance. And so all of those things are still planned to be happened. I just don't have exact dates. I talked to all of the auditors today, and I still don't even have a date. But as soon as that draft is available, we will share that with the CBOC. And so the next annual audit that is required every year is our performance audit. And so part of what the performance audit is really looking at is it's doing a sampling of contracts, invoices, and our PMP. It's actually really exciting this year. Our auditing standard for our district that we shared with all of our auditors, we now have 3 different auditing firms looking at our program management plan, is our program management plan. So we're going to hear, we believe that we're doing what we said we're doing in our plan, and we're now going to hear from 3 different sets of auditors what they found, because the first thing they asked us for in all of these audits is give us your policies, give us your procedures, tell us how you do your work. We sent them our 300-page program management plan, and then they asked us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents. Probably just shy of 1,000 documents we've provided. And so we're waiting to see that draft. And I have to assure you, I am like just as excited as you are. I really want to see the draft, but I don't have it yet. But as soon as we have it, you'll have it. And so here we are, just a little bit behind schedule. So there was in last year's audit, I really tried to put some information in here. In last year's performance audit, there was one recommendation that was made, and that was really about the time auditing process and our timesheets. So we started the monthly timesheet process that comes with the reconciliation and then the reporting. We started that in March of 20. And we've done that every month since. But in the 2020 financial audit, part of what was noted was that we hadn't done it from July of 19 through June of 20. And so that was noted. But I can assure you the one recommendation we had last year was related to our time auditing recommendation. And we've done it every month since then. And we provided and were audited on that in our performance audit this year as well. And so the last audit, and this one's a little bit new, full disclosure, when Sinja and I went to the training that was hosted by the state, we did run into Mr. Vanis and Mr. Younger at the training. So they know tons about this audit, and we're learning a lot about it too, as we've now successfully completed 4 of them. So this comes down to those state dollars that we get. So every time we apply, basically from 2017 forward, for state dollars we receive, we're going through an audit that's being done by a third-party auditor. We were doing these audits before. It was just being handled internally by the Office of Public School Construction, and now it goes to this third-party auditor. And so we had our first 4 that were due last calendar year. And you can see those here. So it was just shy of $10 million in state funds that we received. And you can see these are historical projects. And so I've spent a lot of time in 2006 pulling records, but we've got them all. And so we completed these 4 state facility program project audits last year. And in all 4, the auditor found that we had expended them pursuant to the grant audit agreement, or the grant agreement, which was audited. But we're currently doing, we have 5 more that are due before the end of the fiscal year. One in particular that's due next Tuesday. So when I tell you it's auditing season, it is. We have so many concurrent audits that are happening. And so I just wanted to share those with you here so that you could see them. So for the King, this application here, this is due next Tuesday. I feel very confident that we'll receive that report from the auditor. And then we've been sharing that out through Friday memos, kind of the results of those audits. And I have asked our internal auditors to make sure that those final reports are added to the website. And then we're working on the 2 El Cerrito applications, which are due in April. And then we have the Pinole and the Kennedy applications due in June. So you can see here, this represents another $29 million, right? And so in these audits that we've done, you can see, 29 plus another just shy of 10. We've just received tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from the state, but with that just comes the auditing requirement. And so these are essentially due within 1 year of filing our completed report. And as we continually aggressively seek additional state funds, these will just keep happening for every application. We understand under statute that we'll do a project specific audit for these. And so these are all active and ongoing. So now I'll kind of pivot to some of the supplemental bond audits that we've done. So not required by statute, but definitely audits that we've done, and I think audits that we've learned a lot from, and audit recommendations that have really informed what we do today. So I think that's important. So there was the forensic accounting investigation that was published in 2016 that came with 112 recommendations. So of those recommendations, we still have not completed implementation of all of them, just to be perfectly frank. So I did list here the ones that continue to be outstanding, and that is our CBOC board policy, which includes a component potentially of a CBOC budget, the district business ethics policy for district staff and the board, and then the independent review of recommendations implemented. And so one of the things that the auditor, VLS, did in the forensic accounting investigation was they said, hey, when you do these 7 things, then someone should audit it to see that those 7 things have been done. And so there's been a lot of conversation about internal auditor, external auditor. Well, what we did was the board has approved essentially 3 different phases, phase 1, phase 1.5, and phase 2, which are third-party auditor verification of audit implementation, excuse me. So the forensic accounting report's available online. It's been here since the day it was published, right before it went to the board. So you can find all of that information here. Then I kind of wanted to give you a breakdown, right? So we talked about, we had the big audit in 2016 and 112 recommendations. So then we have these third-party independent auditor verification of implementation. So what phase 1 did was it looked at 62 recommendations that district staff had deemed implemented as of June 30 of 2017. And from that, the independent auditor said, okay, well, as of June 30 of 2017, we deemed 33 implemented, 19 partially implemented, 3 not implemented as of June 30 of 2017, and 7 undetermined. So then after that, we had basically, it's a little bit, you'll understand why there's a 1.5, right? So the board approved a phase 1 and a phase 2. So phase 2 was going to come in and review the verification of the remaining 50 items, right? 50 plus 62, 112. And that was going to be once all the recommendations were implemented. Remember how I mentioned there's a couple policy issues that we still haven't gotten board approved, but it's time. It's time to have these recommendations reviewed externally and verified, because there's a lot more than just the policy that's in the balance, right? And so we have our auditor for phase 2, Moss Adams, and that's an active engagement. So they have the program management plan, they've requested additional records, and so we're working through that. So that's active now. Then we came back and said, but wait a minute, there are recommendations from phase 1 that weren't deemed implemented. And in addition to that, right, there were 29. Oops, sorry. In addition to that, there were recommendations that came out of the broader performance effectiveness audit that we did for 2017, 2018, and 2019. So who's going to check those recommendations, right? How do we know that those recommendations were implemented or not? So we said, okay, let's make a 1.5. And so the board did approve a contract with ID Bailey to do phase 1.5. So ID Bailey, also an active audit going on, is evaluating the implementation of the 29, right, from here, plus the 26 from the performance effectiveness audit. And since this is so much information, I've got one more slide in here that kind of just brings you back to that program effectiveness audit. So the program effectiveness audit reviewed 22 additional criteria beyond the required performance audit. And so out of that compiled 3 fiscal year audit, there were 26 recommendations. Many of those recommendations really just said, right, what is that process? Show me your procedure, right? Super critical. Show us what you're doing. Don't show us just you did the work. Show us that this is what you do each time and that you've really published that. And so of those 26 recommendations, 24 of them were deemed by staff as fully implemented when the board adopted our program management plan, right? Because that's all of our process and procedures and forms and flow charts and all kinds of fun stuff. 2 of the recommendations, again, relate back to the CBOC board policy, which is something that we're committed to working on and we'll talk about. But that's still something in our audit recommendations and something that I think everybody on this call is committed to really moving forward. So what does that mean? We have all of these audit recommendations. How do we make sure it's not for naught, right? How do we make sure that we got that return on investment of having an outsider come in and say, here's some things that we'd like to see. So we did our program management plan, and many of you on this call were so instrumental in that. Definitely took more time than we thought, but a huge compilation of our resources, our process, our procedure, how we do our work. And that is also available online. But one of the things we thought was so important, right? Mentioned earlier in the meeting today, time passes. How do you not lose that recommendation? How do you make sure that what you learned from the past informs not only what you're doing in the present, but what you continue to do throughout the future? And so in our program management plan, we have an appendix section that is dedicated to the audit. And so what does that mean? That means that all of those recommendations, the 112 from the 2016 audit, plus everything that came out of the program effectiveness audit, right? That cumulative 3-year, all of those recommendations, they're in our program management plan. And further, we made basically a reference guide so that you could see those recommendations and how they relate to our practice, which is outlined in our plan. So I wanted to show you that a little bit here. And one of the things, it might be easier to look in the program management plan, but hopefully this isn't too small. So you can see there's 2 charts, right? So we have the chart over here on the left-hand side, which is from the forensic accounting investigation, right? And so you can see that you've got the VLS number that's indicated here. You've got a brief description of the audit item. And then you've got the program management plan location. If you want to know what is the status of recommendation testing of control 6-4, which was about budget account code verification documentation, then you can go here to all of these places. And so there's a little abbreviation legend here at the top. F is for fiscal, APP is for appendix. So if you want to know how we do these things, you can read the fiscal narrative in these 2 sections, and you can look in the appendix at these 2. Basically, I think one's a flow chart and one's a form. But further than that, you can see which one of these supplemental audits, these independent verifications of recommendations, is evaluating the status of that. So you can see right after that, this is part of phase 1.5. So when we get the report for 1.5 and you want to know, what did the auditor find when they asked for all of the forms that we referenced in our procedure, when they asked for all of the backups for all of the warrants and all of the contracts, what did they see? Did it match what we said we're going to do? And you'll note here, right, because we also have phase 1. Well, you won't find phase 1 in the column, because if it was deemed implemented in phase 1, it just says implemented. And if it wasn't deemed implemented in phase 1, then it's part of phase 1.5 or it's part of phase 2. And both of those audits are fully active now. And we hope to see those reports here pretty soon. And so then we're really going to know, out of all of the recommendations, right? Not only from the forensic accounting investigation, but from the 3-year program effectiveness audit, what does the third party independent auditor say about the work that we're doing? Is what we say we're doing how we're doing our work? And were they able to find the demonstration of that through all of the records they've requested from us? And so one of the things I'll show you just kind of really quickly over here on the right-hand side. So you see here this recommendation 117, and you see how where it says program performance and program effectiveness audit, and you see how it says 2017, 2018, and 2019. This brief description, procedure for design and construction budget management, was in each audit. Every year they said, we want to see that procedure, improve the procedure. You need more information in the procedure, right? And now if you want to see what that procedure looks like, you can go to fiscal section 1.1 and appendix 1.5 and 1.6. And there's a lot of information in there. And how will we know what an independent third-party auditor says? We're going to find out in phase 1.5. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do when we brought forward the program management plan, and this has come through years of conversation really with the CBOC, I think, as allies and partners, how do we make sure that everything that we've learned and everything that we've changed and the improvements that we made, how do we make sure they stand the test of time? How do we make sure that if the fiscal approver changes, that we're still using the same form and the same process and implementing the same controls? And really, that's why we thought it was so important to include all of these recommendations in the program management plan and maintain these audit guides so that anyone on this call, anyone in the community, and every year our auditors can look at this information and really see, does our historical audit recommendations align with the practice as demonstrated in the documents that are provided? And so that really kind of concludes my presentation tonight on the audits. And so I'd like to open it up if there are questions. And I just want to say really quickly that I know that this is a lot of information, and I know this still doesn't fill in all of the boxes of the spreadsheet that you prepared, Mr. Panis. But we are working with our internal auditors to fill some of those out. We're working with some of our audit partners, external third-party auditors, to get those dates. I don't have that for you today, but it is something that we're working on and something that we'll bring forward.
I have a question. On the left-hand side of the paper, we have some new people here. What is VLS? That's the original FAI, right?
Yes. So VLS here, I'm gonna escape from whole view and see if I can get this back here. So VLS here, oh, I'm gonna embarrass myself. I apologize for my mispronunciations. Vicente, Lloyd, and Stutzman That is the auditing firm that did the forensic accounting investigation report that was accepted by the board on September 21st of 2016 and is available on our website at this link.
And they're the ones that came up with 112 recommendations.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, right. Okay, good. And also the master list numbers. Would you put that slide back up again?
Mhm.
All right. Now here on the left-hand side, you've got 1, 2, 3, etc. Now over here on the right-hand side, you have 114, 200 and something. So it's the same thing. These are just further down on the list, correct?
Yeah, so we created an arbitrary master list number, and so FAI ends at 112, and then the program effectiveness audit picks up from there, and it just kind of helps make sure everybody's looking at the same thing.
Right. And the final thing is, when you do your tour, if we get to the PMP, could you just walk us through a finished one that would say implemented on it? You know?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Jason, you have your hand up?
Thank you. I just simply wanted to comment that I'm filled with gratitude at the moment. Gratitude for all this work that you all have been doing and compiling, mostly filled with gratitude that I have my job and not yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Anton?
I'm really disappointed that we would get this comprehensive presentation, which will not provide for any informed public comment. The presentation on the screen, the font is so small, you can't even read it. I just think it's unacceptable to have this type of presentation without any public comment, not presenting it ahead of time. And then when you note that the recommendations in regards to the CBOC, which were made 6 years ago, are still not implemented. I found that outrageous and disappointing. And then when you think about the actions taken last year by the board facilities committee to disband an independent CBOC and remove all of the members, you have additional concerns about the commitment of the board to independent oversight. So I would plead that this be put on next month's agenda. I would plead that you send out today to your CBOC agenda distribution list this presentation. End of my comments.
Don?
Thank you very much. And my comments go back to about 20 minutes to the beginning of the presentation when we were talked about the financial and performance auditors and how they'd be reaching out to the CBOC for comments. I just wanted to remind both the CBOC and staff that there are more former CBOC members for this time period than there are CBOC members here now that were on the CBOC during that time period. And I just wanted to make sure that the CBOC and the staff don't bypass, don't ignore all the contributions that we might be able to provide, for that. But it also concerns me that by the time we have the next meeting, this thing is supposed to be over and done with. It's supposed to be already before the board. They're going to accept it. It reminds me about the VLS forensic audit, where the board approved it and then said that they would take public comment. And two of the board members said, I'm not going to listen to public comment. This is over and done with. And that's going to be pretty much the same thing we're going to have here. Reaching out to the CBOC on these things, in particular, the performance audit should have been done 4 or 5 months ago, not a week or two before this thing is going to be brought before the board to be finalized. We got ourselves a little bit of a problem here, and it doesn't sit well with me. Thank you.
Just wanted to say 2 things really quickly. So all of the comments that were made are extremely heartfelt. I got to be very honest about that. would be happy to share the presentation. Very much apologize that it wasn't ready before Friday. Absolutely see this as an ongoing conversation and not just something that's a blip in a moment in time. Also just want to speak to our commitment to continue to do what we've always done. So pursuant to the board policy, when we have the draft, we will share it with the CBOC. The last scheduled board meeting in the month of March is Wednesday. And so this will not make it to a board meeting until April. We've slipped into April in some previous years. It's not that anybody didn't want to be on schedule this year, and that's true of staff and of the auditors, but it's just where we are. But our commitment to following our process of providing the draft to the CBOC, receiving comments with the auditor there, having those comments in an intentional meeting before the report is made final and before it's brought to the board for acceptance, nothing has changed about that. We're just late this year. And it's not for a lack of want. We've all been working as hard as we can on this. We just are where we are this year. And we apologize for that. That's why I was on the phone with everybody today to see if I could get a date. Could I just get a commitment? Can I have something to say tonight? But what we're not going to do is make a promise that we can't keep. But our intentions are absolutely true, and that is our intention to follow what we've always done. Are there any other questions as it relates to this audit presentation?
Melissa, so could you, again, just to reiterate what I was going to say, the same thing Mr. Younger said, could you send this out to the committee or the CBOC distribution list? And then we'll also have this on the agenda for next month.
I would love to.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Anton, do you still have your hand up or?
You're muted if you're trying to speak.
All right.
I've got my hand up, John. It's
Okay,
Tom. So, Ms. Payne, I'd just like to thank you for your comments in response to those questions. I think you make some good points. You're very gracious. I really appreciate your approach and willingness to hear these things. And I agree with some of those comments. I also like to say, I think you did a great job on this presentation. And I'm hoping this presentation, I mean, you may well update it for the next meeting, but it would be great if this presentation could somehow be posted with the materials for this meeting. So thank you very much.
We hear you and we agree.
Yeah. John,
yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to, Melissa, don't you usually post your presentations on your website?
Yes, but along with the posting for the meeting. So if this is something that you would like to see posted to the website, apart from the minutes, if that's what I'm hearing, that's something we could definitely do too.
Yeah. Well, I know you do your financial reports. You put it up on the thing. So I think underneath the program management plan, it'd be a nice place to post something like this.
Well, one of the things that'll be nice, kind of based on you putting it on the agenda, we're going to do a little website walkthrough tonight. And so I think that's going to be nice to kind of share where some of the key pieces of information are kept and where they're available. And so I have a couple of ideas of where we could put this information and continue to keep it up to date, because I do think that when you get a draft report, right, it's great, that's a draft report, but there's so much more that's involved, right? And so if you're really trying to track down the details, that can be hard. And this could maybe be some of those breadcrumbs to really help inform the review of the report.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, Tom, do you have anything more on the subject?
No, John, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, the next item I have on the agenda is some, I'll just call it CBOC business. And what's in there is the calendar, which is unchanged. from the meetings. And then the second item is the attendance list. That we, so these will be regular items that'll just, I'll generally put them later, but there's one other item there. And there's an attachment out there, and that's the roster and terms. If you can bring that up, Ellen. It would be after all the audit stuff. There we go. Thank you. This, I've just downloaded this off of the website, so Tom is not on this yet. And Tom would fill the Senior Citizens Organization. But what I want to point out here is that, okay, with losing Joseph, we've lost one of the 5 positions that are mandated in the ed code, and that's the one for a parent or guardian. Now we have Maisha, but she cannot do double duty on that. So we're going to have someone added for that slot. I don't know, Louis. Don't know. Do we have any applications out there that are new?
We have no current applications that are out there that are new.
Okay.
I did reach out to Guadalupe again after our last meeting, and I have not received a response back from her. And that makes about 3 times so far that I've reached out to her.
Okay.
See if she had any interest. What we would like to do, I know Lorraine had a one-pager seeking members to the CBOC. I would like to get that to her. I've already talked to communications about posting that to our website.
Sure.
Okay, and then the other item on there is both Maisha and I, our terms end on the 9th of June. So if we're going to stay on the CBOC, we need to probably get our applications in as soon as possible so they can get considered by the board. Is that correct, Louis?
Yeah, so we can get it on the board item. So if you're gonna extend your term, we just need to know so we can get it
Okay,
on the agenda.
but we need to do a complete application, correct?
I don't know that you need to do a full application again.
There is a renewal that we tried to simplify, and so I'd be happy to email that over. And currently the last scheduled board meeting in advance of the June 9th date would be the May 18th board.
That's what I thought. Okay. And then one other item that is that I had thought last month that we would possibly be able to do this is an in-person meeting. Is the district, is that still possible next month, Louis?
To do an in-person meeting, is that what you said, John? My internet's a
Yeah.
little broken up. Yes, we can do an in-person meeting.
Okay, well, let's plan to do that. So at any rate, that's all I had on that subject. Anybody have any questions, comments?
You have a hand up. You have a couple hands up.
Lorraine?
I think Don was first.
Okay, Don?
Thank you. I just need to remind you that Guadalupe turned in an application of January of last year and then resubmitted it in August of last year. And I've talked to her several times and she says she has not heard anything from staff. I don't know if we got an incorrect email address or phone number or what, but she has an interest in getting back on there, but she says she just can't seem to get anybody to listen. So we needed to, I mean, she was on there, she filled the requirements. The board needs to be able to take action on her applications, multiple applications.
If you have a good email address for her, I've emailed her to 2 separate email addresses. So, and I know one she's responded to several different people, but I have not received a response, but I will certainly reach out again.
I will get that to you along with a phone number. Make sure that you can reach out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lorraine?
What was I going to say? Oh, a suggestion for Lewis. The district must have the names and email addresses of the PTA presidents for your schools. Why don't you send out it to the PTA presidents and then they can distribute it to their members?
We can do that.
Okay. Anton?
As you go into in-person meetings, is the intent to also have them on Zoom?
I don't see a problem with also having Zoom.
As long as the board continues to approve their remote meetings, we can do it on Zoom as well.
Can we not have it on Zoom even if the board does not?
There's something that we can certainly talk about.
Because I would submit having it on Zoom allows for more public participation. If you want less public participation, take it off Zoom.
We'll just have to dot our i's and make sure we're in complete compliance of the Brown Act. If the board no longer has the resolution under what's allowable right now under the Assembly Bill for hybrid meetings. And so I agree. I think one of the things we've learned in the pandemic too is that we can have great participation when people can log on from home. And we'll certainly do everything that we can, but we just have to make sure that we dot all of our Brown Act i's depending on the board's direction.
Yeah. And if it is in-person meetings and the board way with that, it would just be the members would have to be here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't see any other hands up.
My hand's up, John.
Oh,
And this,
John.
I want to, I was just going to make the point, like what Lewis just said, there's a distinction here, and I'm sure staff will look into it, like what's the requirement for members of the committee versus the public?
Right.
And like, the Little Hoover Commission has been saying for years that you ought to have a way for people to attend meetings without having to physically go there. So, I mean, I'd be perfectly happy. I'd love it if, like, even if all of us need to be in person, if the public is still allowed to attend remotely. So I just want staff to be careful about that. Thank you very much, because I know you did the right thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So let's move on to a little bit of an update on the annual report. Lorraine, on the when we left this last, you're talking about the I don't know whether you have completed the distribution.
No, actually, I haven't done anything with it because I was working on the training, but it's still in progress.
Okay. And then where do we stand? I believe Tom agreed to be the chair of the 2021 annual report. Where do we stand on that report?
You're correct. I agreed to be the chair, and as far as I know, I will continue to be the chair. I've done a little bit of planning, but I haven't even talked to Lorraine. I'm just trying to get some dates lined up and figuring on exactly how we're going to make this thing happen. And I have a couple people on the CBOC I'm going to ask if they can help in different areas.
Yeah, didn't you have, didn't Jason also agree to help you guys?
He
out?
did, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Tom, when we used, John and I used Sylvia to get us on to the Zoom meetings. We had Zoom meetings.
Okay.
The only thing is she leaves at 3:30.
Okay.
So if Jason is at work, if we need evening ones, we might have to get a Zoom ourselves. It's not expensive. It's not that much, but we might have to go outside of the district. You have to work with Luis on that.
Okay. Thank you, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is for Brown Act training?
Pardon?
This was for Brown Act training?
No, it's for ad hoc committees.
Oh, ad hoc committees.
for the annual report.
Okay.
Okay, the next item, and Melissa talked about it, is that we really need to get that revision wrapped up on the ad hoc committee that we have for the policy change.
And John, and I have that with me. And so I know we said last month we would get it out to you, but I will give you the commitment that we should get that out to you early next week by the latest.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll go turn it over to Lorraine and Aisha on the Brown Act training.
All right, actually, we're not going to be answering the questions tonight.
Right,
Because you're just getting the questions. And although we had the primer, the First Amendment Coalition's primer last month, we're waiting for the questions. So this is more an assignment for next meeting. You see here, let me see, can I share the screen? Let's see. You cannot start screen share while other participants are sharing. I think Ellen, or can you hand over the screen to me?
You should be able to now.
I'm on it now. Good.
Okay, and just since I'm already interrupting, if you have your mic on, John has quite a bit of feedback. So when you're not talking, if you could mute, that would be great, Lorraine.
Sure. Okay. Here we are. You can see your screen. Do I have to go into the CB agenda? Yeah, let me get into the agenda. No, that's not where I want to go. Well, let me go to the agenda packet. I'm going that way. Oh, by the way, John, that the link you had in the email, you need a password. So what I did was I came down to here and got on. Come on. Join the meeting. It's not joining the meeting. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well-
you're in the meeting.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, that link was to join the CBOC meeting.
Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. So let me get rid of this. Cancel. Leave the meeting.
Oh.
I think she left the
I think she
meeting.
left on accident.
Technology.
I'm back. I need training in this. So let's do it this way. Why don't you put the agenda back up and I'll have you go to the areas I want to go to. Can you do that?
Absolutely. So you just
Yeah.
tell me where to go and I'll do my best to drive.
Okay. Under the First Amendment Coalition, that primer, you just hit that and you will double click on, I think, and it should go to the, yeah, this is the first, and this is a primer on the Brown Act. There are a lot of different ones out there. This is just one I picked because it was pretty reader friendly. Now, what happened was Melissa read over this and she wrote questions. And you can go back to the other screen again. The questions are at the back of our agenda packet. So just click on that, go to the spot, read it, and then answer the questions. And we will, this is not a test where you get a grade. So when you, next month, we'll just go over the answers so everybody has got the idea of what the training is. Yeah, there's a Brown Act one. Now the next page is the same thing, but it's for the, it's under the Brown Act. Governor Newsom did an emergency proclamation type thing, saying there's an emergency. So then they had the legislature put forth this AB 361, which is meeting remotely. Now, Melissa, you may look into this because at the back of that document, I can't put the document up tonight because when we transferred it from my email to John to the PDF, it doesn't pick it up. So I'll email it out to everybody. But anyway, in the back, it talks about the resolutions. And normally you have to do a resolution every month. But if there is still an emergency on, there are different ways you don't have to do it. So you might want to look at that. But this is interesting, and it tells you, for instance, normally you have to be at the meeting. Well, because we can't be at the meeting because of the coronavirus, we're at our different homes. Well, normally you have to post the meeting agenda where it's going to be held. So you'd have to post it outside your front door and invite the public in to watch if you wanted to strictly follow the Brown Act. So the remote, the AB 361 tells you things you don't have to do in order to accommodate the meeting remotely that you would normally have to do under a Brown Act. So that'll be mailed out to you. I'll send you an email with the link to the First Amendment Coalition's primer for the Brown Act. This article, and this is put out by the California Special District Association. And that's similar to what the CABOC is to CBOCs. This is for the special districts, and they're like 30,000 of them. And they are government entities, but they're smaller ones. They can be independent just in a community, or they could be under a government auspice. So this is their primer. And also the California Special Districts Association was the sponsor for AB 361. So I think that's a good resource to have for this document. So you'll be getting those, and that's your Brown Act training for tonight. When we meet next month, then Maisha and I will go over their questions with you. Okay, that's all for that.
Do we get a copy of this or get it emailed to the link?
Yes, definitely.
Buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to send it out to everybody on the committee.
Yeah, Lorraine,
Yes.
I was going to suggest that we put together an email with the proper links and then some brief instruction on what we want to do.
Okay.
I can work, if you want to do that, I can work with you on that if you want.
Yeah, well, essentially we have what I sent to you for the website.
Okay,
Is what you have, because you've got the attachments of the questions and the links in there work to the two documents.
okay, so we'll just
You
send
could
that.
forward that out. Yeah.
Okay, so I will forward that email out to everyone as soon as possible.
And you might want to send it to Lewis too.
Yeah, and the staff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay,
Don
any
has,
questions?
Don?
Sorry, waiting to be recognized by the chair.
Don?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that you're going to send this out to staff and CBOC. But you got about 250,000 members of the public that might be interested in it as well. And not all of them, you don't have the emails for them all, but I know you have at least two of us in that, myself and Anton. We would appreciate being on that distribution list as well. Because you're discussing things here at this meeting and you say, well, we're going to send you out the information that you need to know about it, except it's not being sent out to the public. I think that actually has something to do with the Brown Act.
Well, no, that, what we're sending out, Don, is we're just repeating what's in the, that what's in there is basically Lorraine's email.
Yeah. What,
The only thing that didn't happen was that when the transfer was made from the email to the Word document to the PDF, is that the site, the website for the AB 361 was corrupted. I think I know how that happened.
Okay.
I think what Don's saying is, he suggested because the public is at the meeting, they should all get it, but this is training specifically for the CBOC. Now, we could post this on the
Yeah,
website.
that, I was gonna say the same thing, Lorraine, that we
Yeah.
could probably post that as a under the training part of the information on the CBOC website.
I'm sorry, but anything that is discussed at a public meeting needs to be made available to the public. Even training. I mean, otherwise it's
Well, the
behind
attachments,
closed doors.
the attachments are at the end of the questions are at the end, they're in the agenda. The only thing that is not working right is this one link.
Okay,
So-
I mean, I understand that. I appreciate that. It's just, it's not 100% clear when you're describing all this stuff. When you start talking about, well, I'll email you this and I'll send out this to the CBOC members. We don't know exactly what you're speaking of. And so just asking, please, remember that the public needs to be included on all this stuff. One way or the other. Thank you.
All right, the next item, the website tour. And Lorraine, in the interest of time, I'm going to suggest that we deal with the WCCUSD website and we do a tour of the CBOC website next month.
Is that all right with you, Anton? Can you do it next month? Anton was going to do it. I don't know if he's still on, but yeah, actually the WCCUSD website is two parts. One is for the district, it's the district's website, and the one is for the district's page and the CBOC page. So why don't we just do the district one tonight, and we can do the CBOC page and the CABOC website next time. Okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, and Melissa's going to lead us through this part of the program for the WCCUSD.
Well, and one of the
Oh,
things
wait a minute,
that
Anton, you have a question?
No, I have an answer.
Oh, well,
To your question, I would be delighted to make a presentation at any time you request.
thank you very much. We'll do it next month then. Very gracious. Okay, Melissa.
I don't have a presentation, but what I did want to do was I wanted to start with our program management plan, because one of the things that we've talked about over and over again is how sometimes it can be hard to get to where you need to be. And so how can we make that more available? So we actually did that in our program management plan. In our first section, which is our program and operations section, we did include an entire section dedicated to the main district websites that you would probably want to get to. And so I wanted to kind of share that with you. So throughout the program management plan, when it speaks to a website, there's a link. But in addition, there's this entire section that's really dedicated to it. And so I was going to kind of just use this as our jumping off point so I could share with you what we had included. And kind of through this conversation and subsequent conversations, if there's additional websites that we want to add, that's the benefit of our program management plan being a living document, and we'll get it added. So starting off kind of with the district's main website, let me scoot this over here too. Just 1 second. I might have too many things open now. So this is the district's main page, and that's included there. It's a good place to go when you want to get a highlight of something. If there's urgent news or a big update, you'll see that that'll happen here in the banner. So kind of flipping back to our program management plan, we have linked here the Board of Education main website. And so there's a page that's dedicated to the board. And so while the content on this page has been updated, the location on the website remains the same. So you can see one of the things that they've added to the district website is these little buttons that'll kind of help you find where to go to get the information. It has information about the board members. And so when you click this button, you see area 1, 2, and 3. When you click this button, you see areas 4 and 5, as well as the student trustees. You can see the schedule here. One of the things that I really like to do, let me go back here, and that's why we put it separately, is I'm always trying to get to the agenda. And so we actually made that a separate link, even though you can jump to that from the page we were just sharing. This is a really good place to live. One of the things that happened is the board was using one particular type of software for board meetings. So I have the little shortcut up here. If you're looking for something from July 15 to December of 2019, it's going to be here under View Previous Online Agenda. If you're looking for the current agenda, you'll look here, and that's just because there were 2 different softwares that were kind of managing it. One of the things that's really nice about this, the board agenda is now powered by Simbly. And so if you're trying to log on from a mobile device, there's a nice way that you can add this shortcut to your mobile phone. And so the meetings are listed here. One of the other kind of enhanced features of Simbly is you can always search for something fun. So if you come up here and you search, you can put in a keyword. You can see there's some keywords there. And then if you click meeting or policies, then you'll get some information that'll come through. So you'll have to click one of these and then it'll give you the results. That does take a little bit of time, so I won't do that now. But that's how you can find all of the information from January of 2020 to future. So the other thing that happened when they switched platforms is our Board of Education policies are located in 2 places. So you can go to the Gamut website, click here, current policies of the Board of Education, and then this is the username and password. So Gamut has kind of the historical board policies. Most of the board policies are also on Simbly now, but I have noticed there's a couple that aren't there, and I know they're working on getting that updated. But this is where you can come to find board policies, because that's what really gives us the clues about the things that we should be doing. The next website that we have here in the program management plan takes you to the bond program management plan. And so this is the website that we dedicated to it. You can see here's the plan that's adopted, still accepting feedback on how we can improve it through Ask Facilities. And then as we do updates to our living document, they'll be posted here. The next item on our little cheat sheet of websites is the CBOC committee page. And so that is here, and this is the exciting cliffhanger of be sure to tune in on April 11th or via Zoom, or join us here in person for a very exciting tour of this website. The next one
Seth,
is,
back on that, would you go back to that one again?
sure. Oops, that's my daughter. Hold
Oh.
on. Sorry, everybody. This is fun. Okay, there we
Go back
go.
there, stay
Sorry.
there.
There are 2 websites for the CBOC. If you go to one, you don't have all these drop-down menus, and I don't know what the story is. If you, it's got all this, but it doesn't have the drop-down menus. So we're gonna have to work on, so we just have one of them.
So you'll have to, if you could send me the link, it could also potentially be a browser issue, but we should definitely research that. So if you could send me any information you have related to that, we could try to figure out why that's happening.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my gosh, I did it again.
Oh, I love it.
Sorry.
Well, what's her name?
Ellen's gonna drive next month. Her name is Asmara. And she's a 4th grader.
Ah.
And she is a big fan of Miss Cole's. So, geez, let me get back to this Adobe here. Okay, here we are. Facilities planning and construction page. So this is basically our jumping off point for facilities planning and construction. And so we also have some buttons here where you can get some information for our bidders and potential vendors that are interested in doing work with us. We kind of put all of their information here, how they can get pre-qualified, the bids that we have, our plan room, how to sign up to be contacted, and our standards. And you can see on our district pages, we spend a lot of time really trying to make sure that we put kind of the additional pages that people might be looking for that might not be on that page, but that they wanted to jump to. So even though this doesn't have the program management program management plan page on it, you could jump to that, our district standards, our master plan, facilities use permit. The other thing you'll notice up here, and this is something that we did through COVID, was we created a bunch of central delegated email accounts to make sure that even if somebody was absent, that somebody would be sure to get back to you. And so we have a website that's dedicated to general inquiries. That's how we send out our newsletters. We have one for developer fees, one for invoices, one for all things pre-qualification, bidding, and procurement. And then thanks to Miss Ellen, we also have our social media presence. And so kind of going back to the page we were just on, right? We jumped one button. So we jumped in if we were a bidder. If you were interested in seeing the bond reports, then we have now our financial reports page, where you can click on any one of the reports to see the historical bond financial reports. And then again, we plugged in some additional information because someone might get here, but they were really looking for the program management plan or maybe our facilities master plan. So these will get them back to that place. And so back to kind of our main page, you can see down here, since this is our main page, you can jump here to the relevant audits page. So this is the page that's maintained by our auditing department, and you can see the historical bond performance, bond financial, parcel tax. And so here's the report going down to what appears to be 2013. I've asked them to add the most recent state facility program website or audit reports to this website as well. So we've really tried to take the different things you might be looking for when you get there and add them. You see, if we also have the CBOC website linked here, the facilities committee page, even though that is currently on hold, we still have the active page, the forensic accounting investigation, because it has its own page, and our master plan. And so now for probably the best part of the tour, I'm going to pass it to Miss Ellen because
before you do that,
yes.
hit the CBOC website.
Okay, sure. Just 1 second. Let's go back.
Yeah. Now see, there's no, oh, you do have the drop down there. Okay, good enough.
So from here, so current and upcoming project information. This is when the page gets really pretty. Ellen's a designer. She does such a beautiful job. So I'm going to turn the talking part over to her and I'll try to follow your lead.
Okay, so one thing that when we did our yearly update, or I guess we should stay in the main column. So the main column, we've made individual pages for our major projects that are mostly under construction or are far enough in design that we have information to provide. And so one of the reasons we started doing this was so that, for example, Lake Elementary School could have a page that they could just link to on their school page and connect over and get the facilities information about their particular project. So we tried to make these individual pages for each school so that connection could be made. And so that's what you see. And then if you want to click into Pinole Valley High School, since that's our main construction project, you'll see that each at least construction page, we review the scope up at the top. We have our monthly newsletters and then our little construction photo gallery of things that are going on over time. So there's a couple pictures from each month as the project develops. And so that gallery gets bigger as time goes on. We also, of course, always have, you can sign up for newsletters. You click on that, you can always sign up for the newsletter. You guys get the newsletters, but then if anybody else wants to sign up for them, they can click on that button. And then if you want to go back to the projects page, Melissa, just back one. There we go. So under our additional information, that yearly end of the year project status, where we went through all the projects, including the ones that were in design, we posted up so that people could see the other things that we have going on. And of course, the master plan homepage, because all things lead back to the master plan. The bond program management plan, because that's how we implement our work. And then one more shot to sign up for the construction newsletter, just in case nobody did it yet. And then for our architects and things, we put our district standards on there to make sure that as they're moving forward with their projects and got confused about which button to push, that they could find our standards no matter where they went. So those are our project page. That's our project page. And then, of course, we also have our developer page for developers who are coming to talk about developing developer fees. So this has a little process chart to help them understand who does what when. It's a complicated process a little bit because they have to go through the city to contact us and back again. So we tried to make that clearer by providing a process chart. And then this has the other information on our regular rates and the documents that support that we take to the board every other year. So in our quick links, we also have the facility master plan page. This is a little bit in flux because of trying to Measure R underway and updating the master plan. So it's been a process and we're kind of veering off to the side for a little while to do the master planning for Kennedy and Richmond. But as soon as those master plans come back, we are going to come back to this updating of the overall facilities master plan, because if you recall, there were a few other boxes that were student housing as well as air conditioning, thermal comfort. So all of those things are going to come back together, and as they do, this page will be updated. But in the meantime, we do have the historic record of the annual updates that are kind of quick and easy version of getting our pieces together versus the full update that we're planning on doing hopefully this calendar year.
Ellen, would you
Yep.
show us the update for June 23rd up at the top there? Because it's got the priority list for R. And we didn't get a demonstration on that, but it's on there. I just want people to know where to find it. You know, with your Kennedy and your Richmond High.
Right, so
Yeah.
in the end, the board decided to move forward.
Yeah, that's it. I thought.
Yeah. Move forward with Kennedy, Richmond, and Stige. And so because Kennedy and Richmond are full-fledged high schools that are very complicated to be able to come up with a budget for, we wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence and understood what that scope looked like and needed to be before coming back and kind of addressing, like I said, the other boxes as well as those 3 priority sites.
Yeah.
So that was the last major update on the master plan in total. So that's on there too.
Yeah.
And then we have our facilities committee page, which has some historical information and just indicates that that's currently on hold. The forensic accounting investigation page, and then the operations page, which has some of the broader departments that Mr. Freeze is also responsible for, and also has a link to CBOC. And so just in the interest of time, I thought I would turn it over to questions and see if there was anything I missed. But I wanted to make sure you guys knew about this resource, that these are really some of the key pages that, I know I find myself going to all the time. And that's why we really included them here. And if there's any that we're missing, we'd be happy to add those to the website, to the PMP, whatever we can do.
And also on the CBOC website, you put a direct link to the PMP. So then you just have to go to 4.3.1, I guess, to get it. So so you can easily get to this page. Could you go back to the main page for the district?
I would like to think that I can, but I
Too
have
many pages open.
a very good job. Okay, here we go. This is the main page for the district.
Okay, now there's a menu up top. This
Yes. Can you guys see that okay? I'm just trying to. not
yeah.
look at two
Now,
pages.
in order to get to those pages, if you want to go through a path, you've got 3 things up here. You've got the departments, and you get down to the facilities planning, and you'll get to that page that you want to hit that and just show her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That'll get you to kind of our pivot page,
Yeah.
which is kind of our main page.
Right.
That'll have those additional links and pieces.
Yeah, and then go back to the just go back another screen to the menu again.
Home page.
Yeah, and then you have About Us. And this you've got all on here. You've got the superintendent, you've got the Board of Ed. That'll tell you the different, just play around with it. Yeah, it tells you, you have a, you can find out the organizational chart. So check out these. And then the other one would be the calendar. So there are 3 of them: About Us, departments, and calendar. If you see the calendar, that's for the district. But you see, we have our meeting on that. Yeah. And on the main page, go back to the main page again. If you scroll down, get off the calendar, go to the home page or whatever it is.
It's working on it.
Oh, okay. Easier said than done, evidently. If you scroll down, you will see a calendar. There you go. And see, this also states our meeting. It states all the district's meetings. So you can find it there. Now, do we post the, oh, and here's a little CBOC. See underneath? You got the CBOC. That's another link to get there. Do you post the agenda for the CBOC on the page, or do they have to go to the CBOC page to do it, to see it?
We post it in two places. So we do post it on the CBOC homepage, but we also post it under About Us. There's a committees page.
Oh, okay.
And so if you click on the committees page, that's where all of the committees are held. And
Great.
so because my computer's going a little slow, if you click here under CBOC, it'll link you to the CBOC page. And if you come down a little bit further, you can see here we have, this will take you to the CBOC website. This takes you to the membership application. This identifies the next meeting, location, Zoom link, and agenda packet.
Oh, great. Good.
So when we do the posting, we also post the agenda outside of our building where the meeting is held. But we always post the CBOC agenda on both the CBOC homepage and here.
Great. Thank you. Excellent. Now, I think that's all for the tour? Mr.
Yes.
Tour Guide? Thank you.
Thank you.
You've got two hands up.
Don, I see you.
Thank you. Anton's hand was up before mine, though.
Well, Anton,
I'll pass.
Thank you. I got three items on here. Last would be first. It's just we were talking about the facilities master plan. There used to be a link directly on the homepage for the facilities master plan. Now it is buried deeper into the web page, and unless you know where it is being housed, it is very difficult to find. I mean, does the public know that it's under the facilities, for instance? If they don't know that, they're not going to be able to find it. It's not as easy to find the facilities master plan from the homepage as it used to be. And that may become a much more important document in the next few months once it does get updated. Okay, but now can you go back about 100 pages to where you had the list of the board agendas?
Links.
No, not the links, the board agendas, the list. Yes.
The current assembly.
No, yeah, I mean, you go ahead and click on it. You current. I just wanted to point out something to the CBOC members if the page ever comes up. Okay, right there, just a little bit to the right of center, you see where it says minutes. Why don't you go take a look back there? You're talking about almost 5 months worth of minutes for the board meetings where they have not yet been posted to be available to the public or the board or anybody else. There's only one in the middle of February, I think it is. I can't read that small print. But yeah, I'm proud that our CBOC is doing a much better making sure that the minutes are being posted. There may be difficulties on approving the minutes, but they're minor, and there's at least an effort to be doing this. But that can't be said for what's here. We're not actually getting the minutes on here. And if you actually take a look at any of these agendas that the district has been using the past couple of years, you cannot download an actual agenda packet to be able to archive it on your computer. You would have to take each particular item, each particular attachment, download it, and then merge them all together into one document. Now, nobody wants to do that when you talk about 25 or 30 different items on there. I think it's remiss of the district to do something like that because with the CBOC, I mean, I go back decades and I've got copies of all the agenda packets on my computer. I don't have to rely upon having internet access because if you're actually in a board meeting, for many of us that are in the board meetings inside Livonia Dijon, the internet access is really, really very poor. We can't send emails, we can't access the agenda packets or anything. So but the fact that I've got it on my hard drive, I can pull it up and be able to take a look at something. That is the benefit. So just if if the district ever tries to push the CBOC into going with this type of an agenda packet, yeah, my suggestion is just fight them and fight them some more. Because it's not going to benefit the community or the CBOC if that kind of stuff happens. Thank you very much.
Anton, do you still have comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll go.
Lower your hand, Anton.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, the last item, it's up to you, Lorraine, as to how much detail you want to get in on this, or do you want to defer it to the next meeting? We're running over 2 hours now.
We can defer it, but it's the second time it's been deferred, so maybe we could move it up a
Right.
little
Now-
further.
Yeah, it'll be moved up next time.
Okay,
And we
Thank you.
took- Okay, with that, next meeting is April 11th, hopefully in person. And that I'll adjourn the meeting by unanimous consent. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.